Good Sunday evening, everybody. Welcome to Bethea'S Byte Reloaded, the drama-free true crime destination. I am Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw, and this week I'm doing something a tad bit different. Normally, I'll be here going through all the legal news, legal headlines from the past week, and I would go over that. I would offer my opinions on what's going on, but this week is something totally different. What I want to do is put a final nail or final bow, depending on how you want to see it, on the case, on three of the biggest cases we've covered this year so far. Those being of Bryan Kohberger, of Stephan Sterns, and of Lori Vallow Daybell. Because hopefully after tonight, the only time we'll be able to speak those names again will be in flashbacks. So, now that I gave an explanation to that, let me begin with my opening statement. This week delivered more than headlines. It brought reckoning. 3 outcomes. 3 lives twisted by cruelty. And now 3 sentences that speak not just for the courts, for the children, for the students, for the stolen futures. Stephan Sterns, Bryan Kohberger, Lori Daybell. These aren't just names on a docket. They're echoes. Echoes of pain. Echoes of consequence. Echoes of closure. They stood in the shadows of unimaginable crime. And this week, the scales of justice tilted toward the silenced. Justice didn't just whisper, it roared. And when it speaks with clarity, it becomes something more than punishment. It becomes memory. This isn't just crime. It's consequence. And consequence deserves the final word. Here, consequence gets the final word. With no gimmicks, no drama, no BS. Welcome to Bethea'S Byte Reloaded, the final verdict, where justice speaks louder than the headlines. Before we get started, a little bit of house cleaning, if you will. First off, I want to thank you all for joining me. If you like what you see and you hear, please drop me a like, share, subscribe, a comment in the comment section to support the channel. It's a free way to do so. If you would like to help support me financially, that's great too. I surely would appreciate that. You can hit me up on PayPal at PayPal.me EKB316 or Cash App $EKB316. Nothing obligated, but it's always appreciated. If you're coming in and you're joining us on the live panel, it's always open. All you gotta do is click the link or copy it to a new browser window or tab, and I'll be more than happy to have you join me, bounce a few ideas, bounce some thoughts off each other. Let's put this thing to bed finally, right? Here's that link again. Okay. Hey, you already know all the rules and reminders and all that. And so, let's get going. Who do I want to start with first? I say let's start with the biggest guilty plea this week. Let's start with Kohberger. Dig a little deeper, real quick, because this is the kind of thing you gotta dig deep for. And Surprisingly enough, Wikipedia, usually known for getting things wrong, has got everything covered. So here's the background that we know of. That we know. During the fall 2022 semester, five female University of Idaho students lived in a rented off-campus residence in the rural college town of Moscow, Idaho. The town of Moscow had not had a murder since 2015. The three-story house had 6 bedrooms, 2 on each floor, built on a hillside. The house had an entrance on both the second and first floor. Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen had their bedrooms on the third floor. Goncalves had recently moved out but returned to show Mogen her new car. On the night of the murders, Goncalves stayed in Mogen's room. The second floor had the house's kitchen and the bedrooms of Xana Kernodle and a surviving roommate. And on the night of the murders, Kernodle's boyfriend Ethan Chapin was staying at the house in Kernodle's room. The first floor of the house had the bedroom of another surviving roommate. As I mentioned, all four victims by name. We had 20-year-old Ethan Chapin of Mount Vernon, Washington, 21-year-old Kaylee Goncalves of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, 20-year-old Xana Kernodle of Avondale, Arizona, who later lived in Post Falls, Idaho, and 21-year-old Madison Mogen of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Chapin was a sophomore majoring in recreation, sport, and tourism management. Kernodle was a junior majoring in marketing. Goncalves majoring in general studies, and Mogen majoring in marketing. Both of them were seniors. Ethan Chapin was a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity. Kaylee was a member of the Alpha Phi sorority, and Mogen and Kernodle were members of the Pi Beta Phi sorority. Jumping right into the meat of this thing. The arrest of Bryan Christopher Kohberger. On December 30th, 2022, Kohberger was arrested on 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 felony count of burglary. He was appointed a public defender and was detained without bond at the Monroe County Correctional Facility in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. On his return to the county courthouse on January 3rd, 2023, he agreed to extradition. On January 4th, he was flown to Pullman, driven to Latah County Jail in Moscow, and held without bail. Kohberger made his first appearance in the Latah County Courthouse on January 5th and was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of burglary, for breaking into a home with the intent to commit a felony. 1 week later, January 12th, Kohberger made his second appearance for a status conference hearing in the same room at the same courthouse. Now, this is the point where we're following all this all the way to the very bitter end. On May 17, the Latah County District Court announced that Kohberger was indicted by a grand jury on 5 charges: first-degree murder, 4 counts, and felony burglary. A preliminary probable cause hearing, scheduled for January 26, was canceled after the indictment. In May of 2023, Kohberger refused to enter a plea during his arraignment. His attorney said that Kohberger was standing silent on the charges, so the judge entered a not guilty plea for him. On January 26, 2023, the Latah County Prosecutor's Office announced they were seeking the death penalty given the aggravating circumstances of the first-degree murder charges. Kohberger was denied bond. In January 2024, the judge granted the defense access under seal the results of the investigative genetic genealogy testing, which used a touch sample from the knife sheath left behind at the crime scene, which led to the investigation of Kohberger. September 9, 2024, The judge granted the defense's motion for a change of venue. The trial was scheduled to take place in Boise, with Judge Stephan presiding over the case. Kohberger was flown south to Boise on September 15th and held at the Ada County Jail. Judge Hippler tentatively set the start date for jury selection on August 4th, 2025, with the jury trial on August 18th. On June 30th, 2025, it was announced that Kohberger had agreed to a deal to plead guilty to all counts against him and would be sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences, avoiding the death penalty, pending approval by the judge. Kohberger will also give up to his right to any future appeals, guaranteeing that he will remain in prison until he dies. So let me make sure you got that part crystal clear. Anyone thinking that Kohberger is going to be able to appeal any of this, that's not happening. Kohberger, in his plea deal, agreed he would not even attempt to appeal this deal. He's going to be in prison for the rest of his natural life until he dies there. On July 2nd, Kohberger pleaded guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. On July 23rd, 2025, he was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences in prison without parole, as well as another 10 years for the burglary. He's also has to pay a combined fine of $250,000, $50,000 per count, and $20,000 combined in restitution, which is also $5,000 per victim. So I'm gonna start my commentary on this. First of all, I'm not a fan of plea deals. If you are big enough, bold enough, and bad enough to commit the crime, you should be big enough, bold enough, and bad enough to stand in front of a judge and jury of your peers and face down the charges that you're accused of. In Kohberger's case, he avoided the death penalty, but at the same time, he cowered his way out of a trial. He cowered his way out of being cross-examined. He cowered his way out of saying why he did what he did 4 times over. So, no, I'm not a fan of plea deals. And in the next case, you're going to see why I'm not a fan of plea deals. But getting back to Kohberger, he now has to face the rest of his life behind bars. Hey, that's a win for him, right? He gets to stay behind bars until the day he dies. Meanwhile, you're talking about life sentences. Ethan Chapin's family is doing a life sentence without him. Madison Mogen is her family is doing a life sentence without her. Xana Kernodle's family is doing a life sentence without her. And the Goncalves family, don't get me started on them. We're talking families in pain. These families are in pain because of what Kohberger has done. Yet, he gets to live. In prison, yes, but he gets to live until he dies. Let me back myself up real quick. And let's remind ourselves. Let's remind each other one more time as to what's being missed out. Ethan Chapin, a sophomore majoring in recreation, sport, and tourism management. Who knows what Ethan Chapin could have been doing with his life beyond college? Never had the chance to find out. Xana Kernodle, a junior majoring in marketing. Who knows? Could have seen some commercial ideas up on our TV, on our internet, or whatever screens that we're in contact with now. Could have been it could have been something that was her idea. We'll never know. Kaylee Goncalves, a young lady who probably could have done whatever she wanted. Madison Mogen, same thing, majoring in marketing. Both were seniors. It's a sad state of affairs when all that potential is snuffed out. If you're watching this now and you'd like to come in and if you'd like to come in and drop in your commentary, I would love to hear from you. Because like I said, tonight I'm hoping that this is the last time we utter the name Bryan Kohberger again. In fact, not only his name, I hope tonight's the last time we utter the names of Kohberger, Stephan Sterns, and Lori Vallow Daybell. Last document that came out of Kohberger's case was on the 18th, which was a motion to extend no contact orders. Let's see that order reads as follows. Comes now the state of Idaho through Latah County prosecuting attorney and moves this court for an extension of the no contact orders previously entered herein, preventing the defendant, Bryan Christopher Kohberger, from having any contact with the victims pursuant to Idaho Code 18-920. This motion is based on the fact that the defendant has now entered guilty pleas to all offenses charged in the indictment and will be sentenced July 23rd. The current no contact orders expire on January 5th, 2027, and the state respectfully requests that they may be extended for an additional 99 years. Ninety-nine years. Kohberger may not even last that long behind bars. So who is Kohberger? Born November 21st, 1994, after graduating from Pleasant Valley High School in Broadheadsville, Pennsylvania. In 2013, he attended Monroe Career and Technical Institute in Bartonsville, but dropped out a year later. In 2015, he began work as a security officer for the Pleasant Valley School District. Later attended Northampton Community College's campus in Tannersville, where he earned an associate degree in psychology in 2018. His education included undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics, and an MA in 2022 in criminal justice from DeSale University in Center Valley, Pennsylvania. In the summer of 2022, Kohberger moved to Washington to pursue a PhD at Washington State University in Pullman. Its campus is less than 8 miles west of Moscow, Idaho. At the time of the killings, he was a doctorate student in criminology and had completed his first semester there just 9 days before his arrest. Kohberger had been a teaching assistant at WSU, and less than 2 weeks before the murders, faculty members met with him to discuss growing concerns about and complaints about his behavior and conduct toward women. Kohberger was terminated from his
While behavior refers to the observable and measurable actions of an individual or group, conduct refers to the way in which an individual or group conducts themselves in accordance with
Kohberger.
moral,
Echo, stop. Thank you. My Amazon Echo. Kohberger was terminated from his teaching assistant role on December 19th in a decision on his behavior and performance overall. Kohberger is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and obsessive compulsive disorder. He wrote online that he faced mental health challenges, suffers from tinnitus, and has a condition called visual snow syndrome. Ladies and gentlemen, after giving you all that, I am not gonna sit here and say and Betty, I am not gonna sit here and have a little woe is me pity party on behalf of Kohberger because he's on the autism spectrum. This is something he did. He did this. He stabbed 4 innocent people. And for what? For what? Things haven't gone his way, so he decided he's gonna go ahead and he can apparently he can't stand the word no. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the victim impact statements in Kohberger's case. And we are going to hear from these victims, families. Well, at least 2 of them anyway. We're going to hear from Madison Mogen's family, and we're going to hear from Kaylee Goncalves' family. I'm going to start with Madison Mogen's first. So before I do that, I am going to bring up, of course, I've got to, the copyright disclaimer. I'm going to set that scrolling at the bottom as well. There we go. Now, let me go ahead and share the screen for that.
Next, we have numbers from the Madison. First would be Scott Laramie, Madison Mogen's stepfather. standing by home is Karen Laramie, Madison's mother.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Scott Laramie. I'm Maddie Mogen's stepfather and the husband of Maddie's mother, Karen Laramie. I will read this victim impact statement on behalf of Karen and myself. Maddie was our gift of life, our purpose, and our hope. Maddie quickly became Karen's joy, identity, and purpose in life. I joined Maddie's life when she was 2.5 years old. The experience transformed me into a life of joy, love, and family. Maddie was bright, beautiful, kind, empathic. She listened carefully to others and was observant, seeing and caring about the hearts and the minds of all encountered. She loved music and music festival. She had a wonderful humor. She excelled in school. She was an easy child to raise, almost never requiring discipline, and almost always giving us parental joy. One time Karen remembers disciplining Maddie as a little girl. Maddie responded, "You broke my heart," which of course melted ours. She had a keen wit, even at that young age. She transitioned into teenage years. She prioritized us and extended family over many of the distractions that capture teenagers. She showered us with her presence and love at family events, barbecues, picnics, birthdays, holidays, and others. She spent countless hours with her pop, her Uncle David, Aunt Nadine, and her other close family and friends. This world was a better place with her in it. As she reached adulthood, Maddie applied her studies to be a marketing professional, entering into an internship at Payne West, and started planning her professional future. As with all things, she involved Karen and myself in the joy of her journey. As she transitioned into womanhood, Karen and I continued to be astounded at this wonderful and accomplished person we had created. All parents dream of their children accomplishing more than them. We realized this dream. All we had not become, she was becoming. Karen and I are ordinary people, but we lived extraordinary lives because we had Maddie. Maddie was taken senselessly and brutally in a sudden act of evil. She was taken along with the young, promising, and bright lives of Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. First, we felt disbelief. Next, we felt disorientation. Then we felt grief overcome us. Our grief is compounded even more for the Goncalves, Kernodle, and Chapin families. We speak of hope and healing, and we do have hope and some healing. But the vast emotional wound will never fully heal. Since Maddie's loss, there's emptiness in our hearts, home, and family, an endless void. After losing her mother in a car crash, Karen took years to grieve and recover. The feeling that her life with Maddie and A was perfect helped her to start to heal. Now, this is no longer perfect. After Maddie's loss, Karen felt like she was spinning out, emotionally collapsing into anxiety and depression. She sometimes asks, how am I supposed to go on and I've lost my favorite person in the world. I felt the same, and we continue to struggle. The loss of Maddie has impacted so many beyond our family. Her second family is her sorority sisters who grieve alongside us. She has so many close friends who suffer from her loss. We will continue to be. Her loss will continue to be felt by the Vandal community, including Vandal Solutions on campus, where she volunteered her time for others. It helps us to know Maddie is in heaven now, freed from the trials of this earth. We, however, continue to live on without the grace and support of her presence. We will grow old without our only child, our bright, beautiful friend and daughter. In the end, there are no words that can accurately capture the devastation of losing Maddie. We will endure, and we will go on. For Maddie, we will not let our grief consume us. For Maddie, we will continue to love and care for our family and friends, including the families of Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. We will remain united with them. We can only hope that others out there suffering similar losses can look to us and see that we can overcome hatred, darkness, and evil. We know the law allows us to comment on the defendant and his sentence. As for his sentence, we support the plea agreement. Society needs to be protected against this evil. As for the defendant, we will not waste the words, nor will we fall into hatred and bitterness. Evil has many faces, and we now know this, but evil does not deserve our time and attention. We are done being victims. We are taking back our lives. We will turn our time, talents, and attention to hope, healing, and helping others, and to the future. We invite all those who have suffered with us on this to join us in our journey. We can make this world a better place. We can move on from tragedy. Adversity will visit us, evil will visit us, but we will overcome. We can and will endure. Karen and I express our gratitude to Your Honor and to the prosecution team for allowing us the opportunity to make this statement. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your courage, and I am so sorry for your loss. God bless you.
Your Honor.
I pause it right there for you to take a look at the top left-hand corner of the screen, because of the way it's divided in fours. I like this. Taking a look at the top left-hand corner of your screen. Look at the face of Bryan Kohberger. Cold, stone-faced. The man could care less about what these people have to say against him. Just like he didn't care about snuffing out the lives of Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Goncalves. But, as the old saying goes, the hits just keep on coming.
Your Honor, This is Leander James. He's the attorney for the Mogen family and victim advocate. He'll be reading a statement from Karen Laramie.
May it please the court, counsel. My name is Leander James. I'm the pro bono counsel for Karen and Scott Laramie. Karen has asked me to read this statement into the record. I thank my husband, Scott, for his statement, his courage, and his unending love and support during this dark time. While words are inadequate to capture the impact of this horrific crime in our family, he expressed it as best anyone could. For Maddie's sake, I will add my supplement statement that incorporates additional impact in the context of my extended family. I am grateful to Maddie's great uncle, Bryan Kohberger, for assisting me with the difficult task of putting our pain into words. For me and my extended family, Maddie was our hope and our light. Her beauty, both outside and in, shone its light upon everyone with whom she came in contact. Her beauty, she carried that hope and light into the future for our entire family. We have memories of our Maddie and grief and pain at her being taken from our presence. Any one of us would have given our own light to have been outshone by hers. We now look to our Creator to know that her light continues where we look to see her in His presence. Those who commit evil for their own twisted gains and purposes truly defile the efforts and sacrifices of mothers, fathers, families, teachers, clergy, public servants, service members, and all those who commit themselves to the greater good, freedoms, and the future light of our nation. Condemnation falls heavily upon those who squandered the lives of our future hopes and dreams. Some may offer forgiveness for what the defendant has done. However, we cannot at this time, or perhaps ever, nor will we ask for mercy for what he has done. His acts are too heinous. The agony and grief he has caused, too great. But we will waste no further words or thoughts on him. For Maddie's sake, we will move on. We will do our best to carry Maddie's light into this world and make it a better place. I thank the court and the prosecution for allowing me the opportunity to make my statement. And I thank all those who have and will support my family and the families of Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Laramie. Appreciate it.
Next is Ben Mogen, the father of Maddie Mogen. Actually, Your Honor, it'll be Kim Cheeley, the grandmother of Maddie Mogen.
My name is Kim Cheeley. I was Maddie Mogen's paternal grandmother, as Ben Mogen, her father, is my son. I'm here today with my sister Lori Cheeley, Maddie's great aunt, and my son Ben Mogen, and my daughter-in-law Corey Hatrock. I'd like to begin by thanking a number of people involved in bringing this case to closure. In my daughter's words, the plea deal the prosecution team reached this month is one that punishes the perpetrator of this horrendous crime, protects the public from further harm, and allows all of us who knew and loved these kids the time to grieve without the anxiety of the long and gruesome trial, the years of appeals, and potential for missed trials along the way. My family and I are so grateful to Bill Thompson and his prosecution team for their dedication and painstaking work that forced the perpetrator to admit his guilt. We want to thank the Idaho State Police, the Moscow Police Department, the FBI, and Judge Hippler. We'd also like to thank the University of Idaho officials who have treated the families of the victims with such dignity and kindness, and who have honored the 4 victims beautifully. Maddie was my first grandchild, so when she was born, all her grandparents had the distinct pleasure of deciding what we'd like to be called. I chose Nana, pretty original. But when Maddie was about a year and a half old, her papa, Ben's dad, and I were planning to visit the new little family in Oregon. Maddie didn't have an extensive vocabulary at the time, but for some unknown reason, she called bananas ba-deedle-deedles. When Karen and Ben told her Nana was coming to visit, she figured, I say deedle-deedle for that word. So I became deedle-deedle, shortened to Deedle when she was about 6 or 7, and I was Deedle all her life. I don't think her stepdad, Scotty, ever knew my given name was Kim. Maddie's and my birthdays were one day apart, and a couple years before she was killed, she gave me this necklace with Deedle and Maddie engraved on it, and I added an angel wing, and it's one of my treasured possessions. I also got an angel wing tattoo, never thought I'd see the day, but along with many members of our family, replicating the one that Maddie and her sorority sisters had. I wanted mine where I could see and touch it often. From preschool through grade school, I stopped teaching piano lessons early on Wednesdays and picked Maddie up for bubble baths, brownies, and books. It was our special time together. And she went home those nights in her jammies with a pan of warm brownies for her family. Although Karen and Scotty raised Maddie and did such a lovely job of parenting, we Mogens were lucky to have her for holidays and many other family gatherings. We'll always have our treasured memories of Maddie growing up in our big, extended, cooperative family. And I thank Karen and Scotty Laramie for being so generous and open and sharing Maddie with her Mogen side of the family. When the 4 kids were murdered, the foundation fell out of our world. Initially, the fear was truly debilitating. The first 6 weeks were excruciating, despite the vigils, memorials, candlelight gatherings of students, friends, family, community members. After the arrest, in the past 2.5 years, my family has lived with grief, with the effects of traumatic grief, of which I was blissfully unaware before all of this. I now have a stack of books on grief. I've attended grief classes at hospice. I've tried EMDR, a technique that helps replace disturbing visions with something more comforting. My son Ben, his 2 sisters, Maddie's aunts, and I have all experienced depression and anxiety and sleep disturbance, requiring medical intervention at times. We've all sought counseling off and on. The struggle with media attention was extremely difficult, especially for Ben. No one should live through the violent murder of one's child. Some days it's beyond me how the parents of these kids are still upright. I'm thankful for the strong families and communities that are supporting the survivors. At the time, I could think of only 2 blessings surrounding the horrific murders. One was that Ben was living with my partner Tom and me at the time, and that we could support each other emotionally through it all. Sadly, Tom died a year ago of a rare brain cancer, and he won't be here to see justice served. He was our family's rock, and we all miss him every day. A second blessing is that my mother died of COVID several months before the kids were killed, and she didn't have to live through the horror. It was difficult to identify blessings. So we've all lost our dear child and a future with her. I ache for the loss of the dreams that she and her true love, Jake, held. And my heart goes out to Karen and Scotty and your side of Maddie's family. You've had more than your share of loss. My heart aches for the kids' roommates and the families of the other victims, and also the family of the perpetrator. Going forward, we Mogens are choosing to put our energy and focus into honoring Maddie's too short life and sweet spirit by celebrating Maddie May Day, which my two daughters established. On May 25th each year, Maddie's birthday, we encourage folks to do random acts of kindness in Maddie's name. In my daughter Katie's words, may we all protect our peace in whatever way possible, unite in community, and focus on joy. Please do an act in kindness in Maddie's honor during this week, so a glimmer of Maddie's light may live on. Thank you.
Thank you, and appreciate your courage, and bless you and your family.
Thank you.
Again, not one shred of emotion from Bryan Kohberger. Not one reaction from Bryan Kohberger. And he just sitting there, just taking it. I believe deep down, no matter what these impact statements say, Bryan Kohberger didn't care then, he didn't care at this point, and now he's going to have a lot less to care about and a lot of time not to care about it behind bars.
Now it's Ben Mogen, Maddie Mogen's father.
I'm Benjamin Mogen. I'm Maddie's dad. And first I just want to say thanks to all the people that helped bring this all to a close. I know it's not the resolution that everyone wanted, but I think that that everyone worked so hard, and we really appreciate all their efforts. It was such a hard thing to go through for everybody. Maddie was my only child that I ever had. She's the only great thing I ever really did, and the only thing I was really ever proud of. And I thought we would have the rest of our lives together to be together and to know each other, and I took for granted the time she was in college, and I thought, oh well, we'll have the rest of our lives to just do all the stuff that we're supposed to do, and she was just about done. She actually earned all of her credits for her college degree, and Karen, Scotty, and I got to go and get her diploma that she actually earned, and she deserved every bit of that. And but I thought that was going to be just the beginning of a long life together, and we never got that. Karen and Scotty did such a great job raising her after Karen and I split up, and I'm so thankful for Scotty and the role that he played in her life when I wasn't able to. But we got to spend a lot of great times together. Maddie and I, she was my favorite person to go to a concert with. We got to see some fun shows together, and I told her, if there's ever a show that you want to go to, let me know, and I'll get you tickets for you and your friend, or if we want to go together, we'll make it happen. And my favorite memory with her was when the Mac Miller show sold out here in Spokane, and everyone wanted tickets, no one could get them, and on the last day before the show, they did a radio thing, and I got 4 meet and greet tickets for Maddie and her friends and me to go and see the show, and that was her favorite artist at the time, was Mac Miller, and he's gone now too, and my little cousin Zach drove us all there that night, and he's gone too, tragically, and anyway, the last thing that she ever wrote to me was this Father's Day card, and I'm so glad I still have it. I'm just going to read what she said. It says, "Happy Father's Day. I hope you have the best day. I can't wait till we can hang out again soon. I'll be in Coeur d'Alene, 624 to 74. Hopefully we can find a time then. I loved your birthday card that you sent me, by the way. Maybe we can see a concert sometime soon. I'd love to see the gorge when it's not so smoky out. I hope you're doing well. I'm proud of how far you've come. Thank you for always encouraging me to do my best. Love you lots and lots. Love, Maddie May." She did encourage me to not just to do my best, but to live on. I went through a lot of issues with addiction and with substance abuse, and when I wasn't wanting to live anymore, she was what would keep me from just not caring anymore, and knowing that she was out there and that she was just such a beautiful person kept me alive. A lot of rough moments, and I'm so glad that she was able to meet Jake. He was the only one that I actually ever got to take her to the gorge. They went and saw watershed together, and yeah, they had a heck of a time. I'm glad she got to. That's a really special place for me, and she always wanted to work out there with me in the summer sometime. She never got to, but at least she got to see it once with Jake. He was such a great guy. He is such a great guy. And I really wanted to see what a future with them would have looked like. I'll never be able to replace her. I wrote a bunch of stuff. I just don't know what to say right now. Except I just miss her so much, and I just love her more than anything. This shouldn't have happened, and you know, a death sentence is one thing, you know when it's going to happen, and it's going to be all gentle and stuff. But a life without parole, with a building full of people that all just want you to not be around anymore, and waking up every morning not knowing if that's the day they're going to pull your card. I mean, it's not a very nice sentence either. So I just love you, Maddie, and I wish you were still here.
Thank you so much.
I listened to these victim impact statements, and this is just from Maddie Mogen's family. And even I couldn't imagine the pain that they're dealing with the loss of Maddie. And I can say the same with the family of Kaylee Goncalves, as I play those victim impact statements right now.
Your Honor, next would be members from the Kaylee Goncalves family. First will be her father, Steve Goncalves.
Today, we are here to finish what you started. Today, you've lost control. Today, we are here to prove to the world that you picked the wrong families. The wrong state, the wrong police officers, the wrong community. You tried to break our community apart. You tried to plant fear. You tried to divide us. You failed. Instead, your actions have united everyone in their disgust for you. I just learned from these lead investigators, to their shock, they worked in an investigation and actually worked with Pennsylvania police officers and the federal FBI. You united everyone. Everyone was united after you. None of us are divided. We are united in our disgust and our love for these children. Today you have no name. Because when this all started, we all came together and we said, let's stop even talking about his name and just use initials. So even the media just calls you BK. That's all you are. Looking back when the police officers knocked on my door, told me what happened to my child, told me what happened to Maddie Mae, I don't think he was even out of the driveway before my kids turned around, looked at me and said, what do we do, Dad? I told them, you get to work. You get your ass to work. And we started calling, we started texting, we started emailing. And you know what? Within hours, we had your white car on a camera. We knew from the very beginning we had you. Police officers tell us within minutes, they had your DNA, like a calling card. You were that careless, that foolish, that stupid. Master degree, you're a joke, complete joke. But we took this disaster and we did what we could. We put everything online. We took our kids, we took our images, we took everything that they did, their videos, their photos, the girls' pranks, Ethan singing. We put it out there, we shared it with the world. And the world united. And all they ended up, when they talked about this case, they talked about Kaylee, Jade, Maddie Mae, Xana, and Ethan. Everything what these people meant to us, a father, a mother, a brother, a sister, we shared that with our community. Then we shared it with our state. We shared it with the country. And eventually we shared it with the world. The world's watching because of the kids, not because of you. Nobody cares about you. You're not worth the time, the effort to be remembered. In time, you will be nothing but two initials forgotten to the wind. No visitors, nothing more than initials on an otherwise unmarked tombstone. From this moment, we've all started. From this moment, we will forget you. We want to all leave in closing. One last thing. You picked the wrong family, and we're laughing at you on your trip to the pen that will be today or tomorrow. I'll close with, God bless all the men and women that worked on this case and all the hard work that you guys did. You guys allowed us to breathe and allowed us to get through this. The amount of work that you guys put together and the way that you guys put it together was beautiful. There was hard times to be expected, but thank you all. God bless.
Thank you.
Your Honor, next is Stephan Goncalves, Kaylee's brother. Stephan's actually gonna pass. There you go. Okay. Olivia Goncalves, Kaylee's sister.
Hello, I'd like to start by thanking the court for allowing me the time and opportunity to speak today. My name is Olivia, and I'm the big sister of Kaylee Goncalves, and I was blessed to love Madison Mogen as a sister too. I'm not here today to speak in grief, I'm here to speak in truth. Because the truth is, my sister Kaylee and her best friend Maddie were not yours to take. They were not yours to study, to stalk, or to silence. They were two pieces of a whole, the perfect yin and yang. They are everything that you could never be. Loved, accepted, vibrant, accomplished, brave, and powerful. Because the truth about Kaylee and Maddie is they would have been kind to you. If you had approached them in their everyday lives, they would have given you directions, thanked you for the compliment, or awkwardly giggled to make your own words less uncomfortable for you. In a world that rejected you, they would have shown mercy. Because the truth is, I'm angry. Every day I'm angry. I'm left shouting at the inside of my own head everything I wish I could say to you. The truth about me is when I heard the news, I didn't cry. I listened for them. I promised them I would, that I would fight for them, that I would show up no matter what it cost me. I swore I'd never let them feel alone. Because you see, I've always been their heavyweight. I've always been the one to fight the battles they didn't feel ready to fight themselves. All it ever took was a call, and they knew I would handle it for them, no matter the time, no matter the cost. They could wave their white flag because they knew I would never back down, not for them. And not even death could change that. Somewhere along the line, I started to think about what I would say to them if I was given just one last chance. If I could gather enough heartbreak or love or sacrifice or whatever it took to get just one message across, what would I say? Throughout this entire process, I've written my feelings down at every moment, my wishes, my love, my denial, my anger. And as one final act of love, I'd planned to read these thoughts, even jarring and discombobulating and not even making sense. Because for me, that was true love. As bare and as naked as it could be, not laced in pretty words or dressed for the occasion, but written through bleary eyes at 2 a.m. with clenched fists, angry at this reality. My true final act of love was to continue on without them, for them. That dream to read aloud my love to them, to bring meaning through pain, was the latest blow in realizing you don't deserve it. And Kaylee and Maddie don't need it. Kaylee and Maddie have always known my love, and they would never ask me to prove it by further victimizing myself to a defendant who has shown no guilt, no remorse, no apprehension. They would say to me, "Why would you give the satisfaction of showing vulnerability now? You promised you would never back down." And for that clarity, I'm thankful. I won't stand here and give you what you want. I won't offer you tears. I won't offer you trembling. Disappointments like you thrive on pain, on fear, and on the illusion of power. And I won't feed your beast. Instead, I will call you what you are: sociopath, psychopath, murderer. I will ask the questions that reverberate violently in my own head, so loudly that I can't think straight most any day. Some of these might be familiar, so sit up straight when I talk to you. How was your life right before you murdered my sisters? Did you prepare for the crime before leaving your apartment? Please detail what you were thinking and feeling at this time. Why did you choose my sisters? Before making your move, did you approach my sisters? Detail what you were thinking and feeling. Before leaving their home, is there anything else you did? How does it feel to know the only thing you failed more miserably at than being a murderer is trying to be a rapper? Did you recently start shaving or manually pulling out your eyebrows? Why November 13th? Did you truly think your Amazon purchase was untraceable because you used a gift card? How do you find it enjoyable to stargaze with such a severe case of visual snuff? Where is the murder weapon? The clothes you wore that night? What did you bring into the house with you? What was the second weapon you used on Kaylee? What were Kaylee's last words? Please describe in detail the level of anxiety you must have felt when you heard the Bearcat pull up to your family home on December 30th, 2022. Which do you regret more? Returning to the crime scene 5 hours later, or never, ever going back to Moscow, not even once, after stalking them there for months? If you were really smart, do you think you'd be here right now? What's it like needing this much attention just to feel real? You're terrified of being ordinary, aren't you? Do you feel anything at all? Or are you exactly what you always feared? Nothing. If you're so powerful, then why are you still hiding, defendant? You see, I'm here today as me. But who are you? Let's try to take off your mask and see. You didn't create devastation. You revealed it in yourself. And that darkness you carry, that emptiness, you'll sit with it long after this is over. That is your sentence. And it was written on the wall long before you ever pled guilty. You didn't win. You just exposed yourself as the coward you are. You're a delusional, pathetic, hypochondriac loser who thought you were so much smarter than everybody else. Constantly scolding, turning your nose up to grammar mistakes, nitpicking and criticizing others. You wanted so badly to be different, to be special, to be better, to be deep, to be mysterious. You found yourself thinking you were better than everyone else, and you thought you could figure out the human psyche and see through it, all while tweaked out on heroin. Lurking in the shadows made you feel powerful because no one ever paid you any attention in the light.
I gotta stop it right there. They say you never punch down. Kaylee's sister is not punching down. She is verbally hitting with precision strikes. She is hitting Kohberger right where it hurts, with the truth, with facts, and you know what we say these days. Facts do not care about your feelings. Bryan Kohberger may be sitting stone-faced, but and could care less about what any of the families have to say in these victim impact statements. But deep down inside, Kohberger knows he's getting hit, and he's getting hit hard.
Before making your move, did you approach my sisters? Do you tell what you were thinking and feeling? Before leaving their home, is there anything else you did? How does it feel to know the only thing you failed more miserably at than being a murderer is trying to be a rapper? Did you recently start shaving or manually pulling out your eyebrows? Why November 13th? Did you truly think your Amazon purchase was untraceable because you used gift card? How do you find it enjoyable to stargaze with such a severe case of visual snow? Where is the murder weapon? The clothes you wore that night? What did you bring into the house with you? What was the second weapon you used on Kaylee? What were Kaylee's last words? Please describe in detail the level of anxiety you must have felt when you heard the Bearcat pull up to your family home on December 30th, 2022. Which do you regret more? Returning to the crime scene 5 hours later, or never, ever going back to Moscow, not even once, after stalking them there for months? If you were really smart, do you think you'd be here right now? What's it like needing this much attention just to feel real? You're terrified of being ordinary, aren't you? Do you feel anything at all? Or are you exactly what you always feared? Nothing. If you're so powerful, then why are you still hiding, defendant? You see, I'm here today as me. But who are you? Let's try to take off your mask and see. You didn't create devastation. You revealed it in yourself. And that darkness you carry, that emptiness, you'll sit with it long after this is over. That is your sentence. And it was written on the wall long before you ever pled guilty. You didn't win. You just exposed yourself as the coward you are. You're a delusional, pathetic, hypochondriac loser who thought you were so much smarter than everybody else. Constantly scolding, turning your nose up to grammar mistakes, nitpicking and criticizing others. You wanted so badly to be different, to be special, to be better, to be deep, to be mysterious. You found yourself thinking you were better than everyone else, and you thought you could figure out the human psyche and see through it, all while tweaked out on heroin. Lurking in the shadows made you feel powerful because no one ever paid you any attention in the light. You thought you were exceptional, all because of a grade on a paper. You thought you were elite because your online IQ test from 2010 told you so. All of that effort just to seem important. It's desperate. There is a name for your condition, though. Your inflated ego just didn't allow you to see it. Wannabe. You act like no one could ever understand your mind, but the truth is you're basic. You're a textbook case of insecurity disguised as control. Your patterns are predictable. Your motives are shallow. You are not profound. You're pathetic. You aren't special or deep, not mysterious or exceptional. Don't ever get it twisted again. No one is scared of you today. No one is intimidated by you. No one is impressed by you. No one thinks that you are important. You orchestrated this like you thought you were God. Now look at you, begging a courtroom for scraps. You spent months preparing, and still all it took was my sister in a sheath. You worked so hard to seem dangerous, but real control doesn't have to prove itself. The truth is, the scariest part about you is how painfully average you turned out to be. The truth is, you're as dumb as they come. Stupid, clumsy, slow, sloppy, weak, dirty. Let me be very clear. Don't ever try to convince yourself you mattered just because someone finally said your name out loud. I see through you. You want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your fucking ass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Christy Goncalves, Kaylee Goncalves' mother.
Thank you, Your Honor. I never imagined having to speak to someone so devoid of humanity. For a long time, I didn't think I'd find the words low enough to meet you where you are. But now I realize this isn't about you. It's about what you've done to me, and I need you to hear it. When you murdered my daughter, Kaylee J. Goncalves, you didn't just take her life, you shattered others. You attacked who you could never be, and in doing so, you left a trail of devastation far beyond that house. You stole my peace. You've altered my every waking moment, every sleepless night, the way I view the world, people, safety, trust. It's all been changed by your cruelty. I no longer recognize parts of myself. Joy is harder to find. Laughter feels foreign. The world moves forward, but I'm suspended in a place of sorrow and rage. You've taken from me something that can never be restored. The grief sits with me every day, some days quietly, and other days so loud it drowns out everything else. The emotional toll you've inflicted on me is immeasurable. I live with a constant ache, with birthdays that are now memorials, with holidays that feel hollow, with empty chairs that scream louder than words ever could. I am forever changed. But for you, as a person working on a PhD in criminal justice, you really didn't think this one through. You're not that good. In fact, you're not that good at anything. You couldn't secure a job. You couldn't get along with others. You couldn't even get a female to look in your direction. All because you are pathetic. Now you're a joke in this courtroom. I wish I could crown you with a jester hat to complete your orange jumpsuit clown look. A dead killer doesn't kill again. So while I'm disappointed the firing squad won't get to take their shots at you, I'm confident that the men in prison will have their way with you in more ways than one. You will finally get what you wanted, physical touch. Just probably not how you were expecting it. See, you haven't beat the system. You've simply entered a new one, where the rules are cruel and the consequences will never end. You are entering a place where no one will care who you are and no one will ever respect you. You will be forgotten, discarded, used, and erased. You will always be remembered as a loser, an absolute failure. And when those prison doors slam shut behind you, I hope that sound echoes in your heart for the rest of your meaningless days. I hope it reminds you of what we all already know. You're nothing. May you continue to live your life in misery. You are officially property of the state of Idaho, where your fellow inmates are anxiously awaiting your arrival. But it's okay, because they're there to help you. Hell will be waiting. Quick message from our youngest daughter. Aubrey wanted to say, you may have received A's in high school and college, but you're going to be getting big D's in prison.
Thank you.
Like I said, guys, you don't punch down. With these victim impact statements, you can punch up, down, left, and right, and that's exactly the hits that Kohberger's taken, and all he can do is sit there stone-faced. And that's before he even gets sentenced. But wait, as they say, there's
Do we have more from the Goncalves family, or are you?
Yes. Next would be Shannon Gray, the Goncalves family attorney. He'll be reading statements from Kaylee Goncalves' grandmothers.
Well,
Morning, Your Honor. Shannon Gray, the attorney for the Goncalves family. I actually have three statements, one from her aunt and two from her grandparents. This is from her aunt, Tammy Butts. You, in the cloak of darkness, made a decision to turn our whole family's world upside down forever. You, in the cloak of darkness, took our Kaylee J. Goncalves away from us all without hesitation. Never have you shown any remorse or regret. We just get creepy, non-expressive stares as you have your team of women defend you. Kaylee was a strong, kind, fun-loving, caring person, and she will greatly be missed by all her family and friends for the rest of our lives. She had goals in life that you took from her and us. We lose on watching her enjoying her life, working hard and building the future she wanted. She was ready to start that after college life. You, in the cloak of darkness, took it all away. You left us without her future wedding, her future children that she would have added to our family. No more talking to her on the phone, going for a coffee, celebrating holidays. It's all gone. You, in the cloak of darkness, gave each and every one of the Kaylee family members their own lifetime sentence. You, in the cloak of darkness, also took our Maddie Mae from all of us. She was so genuine, caring, polite. She was part of our family. You came in, harmed our children that were younger women than you in their own beds. You're nothing, you coward. It's not right that you have received life. I pray that you meet your end in the cloak of darkness. burn in hell. I have two other statements, Your Honor. This is Linda's statement. This is Kaylee's grandmother. I really don't know how to address something so inhumane, but I will try. Nothing in the past 2.5 years has made any sense. All I get is you cowardly went into a home at night, filled with what I'm sure you thought was all sleeping girls, and went on a vicious killing spree for no other reason but to appease your demonic urges. You took my granddaughter Kaylee from us, plus 3 other beautiful lives. You took my granddaughter Kaylee, beautiful, sweet-souled, doll-faced Kaylee, who was getting ready to start her amazing life, who had such a bright future, who was loved by so many, who you were so envious of. She had a life you could never have. You are so beyond human. You're definitely a demon from hell. I truly wish your punishment would be the same death you inflicted on our kids. But I think you will meet some new friends in prison who will be there just to help you. Thumbs up. I have one last statement, Your Honor. This is from Cheryl Goncalves, Kaylee's other grandmother. John 1:5 says, "Light shines in the darkness, and the darkness overcomes it not." Somewhere in your life, some jealousy, envy, ego, something went dark. It pushed out all light until you became dark and evil. And when you saw my granddaughter and her friends, their light, because they have such a light, you couldn't stand it. Because the darkness in you could not stand the light in them. And so you decided to destroy it. Cowardly, you walked into their rooms in the dark and took their lives, hoping to get rid of your darkness. But you didn't. You failed. Because you know what was once a light shown only to their friends, families, and loved ones is now all over the world. Everyone sees it. Their smile, their beauty, their plans, everything they were and had. And you think you put a close to it, even that, but you didn't. Because they still exist. They are still light. They are still beautiful. You can never take that away. They will always be in the light of all eternity. And you will be in the darkness because you could not overcome it. You failed. I want you to be gone, more than gone. I want you to be cast out. Cast out from my life, from my family, from this earth. I will not allow your hatred to penetrate into my own soul. You did not get that power. You are evil, and in the end, evil is eradicated. You didn't take Kaylee's light, you spread it into the world. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
And that's just like I said, that was just the victim impact statements from the Mogen and Goncalves families, and they pulled no punches. They pulled no punches, and in the end, it will be Bryan Kohberger be sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole, plus another 10 years for burglary. we're gonna go right. We're gonna. I mentioned what the eventual outcome was, but I want you to hear what the judge had to say as he delivered the sentence.
All right, let me start this morning by acknowledging and thanking those that have come here today in support of their loved ones. And I appreciate your courage and your strength. And I hope that you are able to move on as best as possible. Thank counsel for the professionalism that they've exhibited throughout this case. It has been my great honor to preside in this case and to help bring, to the extent possible, some resolution and hopefully justice to this case. During the quiet morning hours of November 13, 2022, a faceless coward breached the tranquility of 6 beautiful young people and senselessly slaughtered them, 4 of them. Who committed this unspeakable evil was unknown for several weeks, but due to the killer's incompetence and outstanding police work by numerous local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, the person that slithered through that sliding glass door at 1122 King Road now stands before the world and this court unmasked. This unfathomable and senseless act of evil has caused immeasurable pain and loss. No parent should ever have to bury their child. This is the greatest tragedy that can be inflicted upon a person. Parents who took their children to college in a truck filled with moving boxes had to bring them home in hearses lined with coffins. The loss this killer inflicted was not just the death of these people's children, siblings, grandchildren, as we've heard today. It has ripped a hole in their soul, destroying a special part of their very essence. Any person who is a parent defines themselves foremost as such. It is their existence and purpose of being. And it has been stolen from these parents. None of us have experienced the loss these victims have in the unspeakable way that they have. Therefore, none of us can, nor should we, question the way in which they have handled their loss. Whether that be in private mourning, removed as far as possible from this meeting, or in front of a camera demanding retribution with the loudest megaphone. I've listened intently to the stories and pain that have been shared today, with great awe at the courage and resilience of the surviving family members of those wonderful children. I've listened also to the surviving roommates, both in person and through their friends. And I can't think of how, frankly, courageous they have been despite the hell that they have faced by uncaring people who have come up with all kinds of crazy theories about 2 kids simply being kids. The parents, siblings, and other family members who have spoken today are designated as victims in our legal system. But going forward, I hope that they can shed that label, as it gives too much power to the evil that condemned them to that role. They are and should be known as survivors, fighters, and foremost as witnesses to the tremendous lives of value and unbounded promise of these 4 young people. But those speaking today and those who did not speak, but who carry the same burden, this same loss, now carry forward the memories of these now perpetually young people, these forever children. These survivors carry the responsibility of ensuring that the voices of these children, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, are never forgotten, and the positive impacts that they have had on so many lives are never minimized, and that the love they shared, the light that they shined onto others, is forever celebrated. As we sit here today, this case is ending, and we are now certain who committed these unspeakable acts of evil, but we don't know, and what we may never know is why. I share the desire expressed by others to understand the why, but upon reflection, it seems to me, and this is just my own opinion, that by continuing to focus on why, we continue to give Mr. Kohberger relevance. We give him agency, and we give him power. The need to know what is inherently not understandable makes us dependent upon the defendant to provide us with a reason, and that gives him the spotlight, the attention, and the power he appears to crave. Yet even if I could force him to speak, which legally I cannot, how could anyone ever be assured that what he speaks is the truth? Do we really believe, after all of this, he's capable of speaking the truth or of giving up something of himself to help the very people whose lives he destroyed? Rather, I suspect the so-called self-serving and aggrandizing untruthful bits, leaving people wanting more information, more insight, and thus enhancing even further the power he seeks to hold. Even if we could get truthful insight into his why, I suspect it would not in any way quench one's thirst for actually understanding why in the first instance. Because there is no reason for these crimes that could approach anything resembling rationality. No conceivable reason could make any sense. And in the end, the more we struggle to seek explanation for the unexplainable, the more we try to extract a reason, the more power and control we give to him. In my view, the time has now come to end Mr. Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame. It's time that he be consigned to the ignominy and isolation of perpetual incarceration. I know there has been concern about him collaborating on books or movies or other media projects, and I truly hope that someone does not stoop to affording him this spotlight that he desires in the name of clicks, royalties, or profits. While criminal behavioralists should study him away from the spotlight in an attempt to prevent other would-be killers from acting on their worst impulses, there should be no need for that to spill over into the public eye. The great Idaho jurist Edward Lodge was known for trying to find something positive about every person he ever sentenced. And with over a half a century as a trial judge, that was a lot of people. This was often challenging, and I recall in one case he said that the best he could come up with was the defendant had good penmanship. Truth be told, I'm unable to come up with anything redeeming about Mr. Kohberger because his grotesque acts of evil have buried and hidden anything that might have been good or intrinsically human about him. His actions have made him the worst of the worst. Even in pleading guilty, he is giving nothing hinting of remorse or redemption, nothing suggesting even a recognition or understanding, let alone regret for the pain that he has caused. And therefore, I will not attempt to speak about him further, other than to simply sentence him so that he is forever removed from civilized society. And accordingly, based upon his conduct and based upon the record before this court, recognizing the standards that govern this court's sentencing decisions as set forth in State v. Toohill, I hereby sentence Mr. Kohberger as follows. On count 1, burglary, 10 years fixed, 0 years indeterminate. I also impose a fine of $50,000. Count 2, first-degree murder of Madison Mogen. I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. On count 3, for first-degree murder of Kaylee Goncalves, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the victim of the family, or to the family of the victim, pardon me. On count 4, for the first-degree murder of Xana Kernodle, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. On count 5, for the first-degree murder of Ethan Chapin, I sentence the defendant to a fixed term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, a fine of $50,000, and a civil penalty of $5,000 payable to the family of the victim. The sentences on counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 shall run consecutively to one another. Restitution will be left open for 60 days. Defendant will be required to submit a DNA sample and a right thumbprint impression to the Department of Corrections and comply with the DNA Database Act. I remand the defendant to the custody of the Idaho State Board of Corrections for to be imprisoned in an appropriate facility and execution of the sentence where he will remain until he dies. Though you have waived your right to appeal, you do have a right to file a notice of appeal, and any such appeal must be filed within 42 days of the date of the written judgment, which will be entered shortly hereafter. Though the appeal, you should be aware, may be deemed a violation of the plea agreement, and so I certainly suggest you discuss that with counsel if that is your desire. I ask the media and public present to allow the families to be escorted out first before they leave. Again, thank you to everyone for your stories today. I am strengthened by them, and I am encouraged by your humanity and strength, and God bless you. We're adjourned.
Wow. Judge Stephen Hippler, tell him how you really feel before sentencing. Like the Mogen and Goncalves families, Judge Hippler didn't hold back either. And the bottom line now is that Bryan Kohberger will indeed spend the rest of his natural life behind bars, and like Judge, and in the words of Judge Hippler, there he will remain until he dies. Next up, we're going to recap the killing of Madison Soto. And this one disgusts me most out of all three cases that I'm recapping tonight. 13-year-old Madeline Soto from Kissimmee, Florida, was reported missing on February 26, 2024, found dead March 1st of 2024. Mother's boyfriend, Stephen Michael Sterns, was charged with first-degree murder. On July 2025, he pled no contest to the charge. Let's start back with the disappearance. Madeline Soto disappeared on February 26, 2024. Staff of her middle school stated that she didn't arrive that day. The very next day, February 27, the Orange County Sheriff's Office requested the public assistance by providing any information they had on her whereabouts. The investigation was rather short. A search for Soto was undertaken by the Orange County Sheriff's Department on February 28th. Madeline's body was found in a wooded area on March 1st. The Kissimmee Police Department took over as it became a homicide investigation. The department released a report in August stating that Soto died of strangulation. Authorities found video evidence of Sterns discarding items into a dumpster on February 26th. Inside, they found Madeline's backpack and school-issued laptop. On the same day, Sterns' phone was put through a factory reset. Oh, by the way, let him tell it, he accidentally set it for a factory reset. But we'll talk about that in a minute. 2 days later, on February 28th, Stephan Michael Sterns, a 37-year-old native of Aurora, Illinois, who was later raised in Georgia, Southern California, and Florida, gave consent for police to search his phone. The sheriff's office reported on February 29 that they found pictures and videos of Sterns, who lived in Kissimmee at the time, molesting Soto, dating back to when she was only 8 years old, on his phone and Google Drive. Sterns requested that the evidence be thrown out as it had not been acquired with a search warrant. Sterns was indicted by a grand jury in April 2024. June 10, the 9th Judicial Circuit Court's Attorney's Office stated it would seek the death penalty. Sterns' attorneys cited the 5th, 6th, 8th, and 14th Amendments to argue that the death penalty was of cruel and unusual punishment. On July 21st, 2025, pleaded no contest to murder and guilty on all 60 other sex crime charges. Later that afternoon, Sterns was sentenced to 21 concurrent life sentences in state prison with no possibility of parole. And you wonder why Court TV's Julie Grant keeps referring to him as Sicko Sterns. Let's go right now, if I can pull it up. We're going to go to victim impact statements in Kohberger. No, I'm done with Kohberger. We're going to go to victim impact statements. In Stephan Sterns' case. And then I'm gonna bring up another major thing that didn't go down. But first, we're gonna do the victim impact statements first.
Prior to sentencing, does the state care to offer any victim impact testimony?
Your Honor, the first will be a written statement from Madeline's maternal grandmother. Yolanda Sambrana. Today I stand before you with a broken soul. I am Madeline's grandmother, but to her I was not grandma. Madeline always called me Mama. She decided that since she was little, and that's how I felt with her, like a second mother who loved her with all my heart. Madeline was a happy little girl. She loved going shopping with me. That excited her so much that it felt like everything around us turned into color. I remember her face lighting up when we went to the stores. Holding hands, laughing together in those moments, we connected, and I felt like she knew she was loved, protected, and valued. At night, we loved to play. It was in those moments, just before bed, that she laughed the most. Sometimes it's hard for me to close my eyes because I still hear her laughter. It was free, sweet, and sincere laugh. A sound I will never forget as long as I live. But that laughter was silenced by a horrific act. The very man who betrayed her trust, her innocence, her body. And if that wasn't enough damage, he took her life. With her, he killed a piece of our souls. Since then, life has never been the same. Our family is empty and broken. There are days when the pain is so great that I feel like I'm drowning. And every time I think of everything she could have been, everything that was stolen from her, it hurts even more. Because Maddie wasn't just a victim. She was a little girl with a beautiful future, with a unique light, with so much love to give and receive. Today I am here because Maddie can no longer speak, but I can as her grandmother. As someone who loved her with all that I am, I come to ask for justice for her memory, for everything she lived through and should never have lived through. Justice so that no one else has to go through such a horror. I will never forget Maddie, her voice, her laughter, her eyes, her dreams. All of that lives in me, and so it will live forever. My beautiful girl, one day we will be reunited and we will never be separated again. I love you with all my heart. Thank you for listening to me with deep pain and eternal love.
This is a statement from Angelica Negro Guerrero. My name is Angelica Negro Guerrero. I lived with Maddie and Jennifer in the same house for about 2.5 years. Today, I take the liberty of expressing myself not just as a roommate, but as part of the family, as Maddie told me several times. How can I explain how this tragedy has impacted my life? There are so many emotions. I am an immigrant and I have lived in this country for 4 years. I left my country, Venezuela, alone with just a suitcase in my hand in search of a better future. Venezuela has been going through the worst moment in history, run by people blinded by power and money, people who have stolen the future of so many. I've always been against injustice, abuse, corruption, and evil in general. I couldn't picture myself living in a country where I had to witness every single day how a small, corrupt group destroyed countless families and the beauty of my nation. And that's exactly why it has been so devastating for me to experience something so tragic, so close to me after coming here with a hope for a better life. I ended up living under the same roof with a man who took a life of a 13-year-old girl, and with that shattered an entire family. What is the point of having dreams, plans, and opportunities if there is no life? If there is so much evil in the world? How can I explain what I felt and how this has affected me, especially considering that this same man took nude photos of my body without my consent, violating my privacy? I felt invaded, outraged, degraded, anguished, and absolutely shattered. I constantly think that my life was in danger too. I could have died. I am also a victim. And the only reason I'm here to write this is because God is great and I know I'm under his protection. This has affected my emotional, physical, and financial stability. I haven't been able to live with strangers ever again. Right now, I rent an apartment by myself. I pay it with all my effort just to feel safe and at peace. If I already had trouble trusting people before, now it's even harder. I can't imagine even handling a neighbor too close because it gives me anxiety. I tried to get psychological help to move forward, but this is something that will forever remain in my memory and continue to affect me deeply. To this day, I wish I could wake up and realize none of this ever happened, that this was just a nightmare. I wish I could still be spending time with Maddie, making her arepas with cheese and butter like she loved, and practicing our languages together. Me learning English and her learning Spanish. I'll never forget the words she always told Jennifer. Mommy, I would love to learn Spanish so I can talk a lot with Angelica. I think about all the time, and I wish it had been me who spoke English fluently back then. Maybe she would have opened up to me about the hell she was going through with that horrible man. I want justice for Madeline and for all the girls and women who have lived through something similar. I want him to pay for all the pain he caused her and the beautiful family I love with all my heart. I send all my love to the sky to Madeline so her soul may find peace. Angelica. This is from Zamina Zambrano. a cousin to Maddie Soto. To the Honorable Court, we write this letter with broken hearts still aching from the devastating loss of our beloved Maddie Soto. The pain of losing her is something no family should ever have to endure. The nature of her death, the cruelty, the abuse, the inhumanity has inflicted a level of trauma and sorrow that words can scarcely convey. Maddie was more than a victim. She was a daughter, a granddaughter, a cousin, a niece, and a cherished soul in our close-knit and loving family. To know her was to love her. Her spirit, her kindness, and her light remained with us even though her life was so brutally taken. She was not only murdered, she was discarded like she was nothing, thrown into the wilderness. That image haunts our minds and wounds our hearts every day. Our grief has been compounded by the public scrutiny and cruelty of strangers who speculate and judge without knowing the depth of our loss or the strength of our bond. We are a large family rooted in love, faith, and mutual support, and this tragedy has shaken us to our core, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Many of us suffer sleepless nights, constant anxiety, and depression. The trauma has left scars that will last a lifetime. We turn to God for comfort, and we trust that divine justice will ultimately be done. But we also place our faith in this court to uphold what is just and right. Maddie deserves that. Our family deserves that. We beg you to consider the profound impact this crime has had, not just on one individual, but on an entire family and community. Please ensure that the individual who committed this horrifying act is held fully accountable. Justice for Maddie cannot bring her back, but it can ensure that her life and her death are not dismissed or dishonored. Let there be no leniency for this cruelty. Let there be no question about the value of her life. Let justice be done. Sincerely, Xana, please, on behalf of the Zambrano family.
Ma'am, can you tell the court your name?
My name is Leticia Nunez. I was Madeline Vaughn.
Can you spell your first and last name for the court reporter?
Letizia, last name Nunez, Nunez. To Maddie. When I was 7 years old, a beautiful newborn baby was brought into our lives. And I remember being so excited because I was going to be an aunt. You gave me a sense of responsibility from such a young age because I wanted nothing more at that time than to help take care of you, play with you, and overall just make you a happy baby. You're truly missed every single day. I miss your laugh. I miss your smile. I miss your big, beautiful blue eyes. I miss doing the little things like picking you up from school, helping you with your homework, even though we both hated doing that. I just miss you and your presence. But that unfortunately was taken from us. I have so much hatred in my heart, specifically for the creature that's sitting in this room today. And no matter what happens or what justice could be brought, it kills me that it doesn't bring you back. I would give up my life if it meant having you here with us. Even though it was your aunt, you always felt much more like a little sister to me. Doing your hair for the father-daughter dances that my dad would take you to, letting you pick out clothes from my closet, doing your makeup and making sure it was very light because your natural beauty was worth more than any makeup product money could buy. I just miss you every single day, and it's left a hole in my heart from the day you've been gone. Your innocence was taken from you, and since clearly that wasn't enough for a certain someone, so was your life. You were the bravest little girl I've ever met, full of love, light, laughter, and any positive thing I could think of, you were all of those things. I'm so blessed to have spent 13 years with someone so wonderful, and you're going to live on through all of us. Not because of what happened to you, because that didn't define who you were. I'm going to make sure my future kids know who you are, and make sure my grandkids know who you are, and so on. Today I sit here before everyone, and all I can say is that despite what anyone thinks they know, you were so loved by each and every one of your family members, and I know you left this world knowing that. I know it would pain you to see what people have to say about your loved ones, but what I think of it all is that, and what I'd want you to think up in heaven is that it's all just noise. And I find comfort in the fact that we, your family, know you were beyond loved and beyond cared for. I'm so sorry we found out too late. But despite everything that was happening to you behind closed doors, you still remained one of the happiest human beings I've ever met. Someone who loved us deeply and made us all smile. Trying to find light in this horrible situation is very difficult, but one thing I am grateful for is that your last day on this earth was everything you wanted and more. You got the birthday you asked for. Your best friends were able to be with you. We cooked the food you specifically asked for, and overall, I have the memory of sitting outside by my pool looking at you and your friends and just thinking, I'm so glad she's having a great time. And look at how grown up she is. How she's blossoming into such an amazing young woman. I could go on forever, but I just want to leave this here by saying I love you so much, and I miss you endlessly. Everything I do from now on, any accomplishments, any decisions I make, anything that happens in my life, I'm going to do it for you and in your honor. I love you, Madeline Sophia Soto, and I hope you're resting peacefully now.
What a wonderful tribute by the aunt of little Madeline, shifting things inside of that courtroom from the man who has now accepted a plea deal for killing her, for exploiting her, to where it should be. Justice for Madeline Soto and remembering that little girl. Let's take a break and we'll have more victims.
First and last name for the court reporter.
Natalie Rosero, Nathalie. Thank you, Your Honor, for having me here today. I've known the family for over 15 years. I am best friends with Maddie's aunt and was roommates with Maddie and her mom during the time her life was ended. All of our kids are the same age, so we always try to keep them united and spend as many holidays together. I have years worth of beautiful pictures, birthdays, Christmas, and Easters we all spent together. Those are the moments I try to hold on to as I stand here today. I'm here to express what the past year and a half has been like in my experience. From the moment we found out that Maddie went missing, life has never been the same. Those first 48 hours we set out to look for her, we spread flowers, went knocking on door to door, going to every business on John Young Parkway from Kissimmee to Sam Lake, asking for the public's help. All while seeing my best friend and her family have emotional breakdowns, feeling completely helpless and terrified for Maddie, thinking how could anyone just take her? It turns out we spent almost 3 days looking in the wrong location because Stephan lied to us about where he last saw her. Your Honor, that's the first time in my life I've ever felt true hate for anyone. The following days were filled with more sadness and distraught. We went from searching for a missing person to looking for a body. I had been searching for her as if my son was missing, so it was very difficult to accept that. We spent the rest of the week canvassing St. Cloud until they eventually found her body. Although there was a moment of relief that at least her body was found, that was the last sense of relief I felt since that day. I was confident I had the power of discernment, but I couldn't even see the evil living in the same house. As details of the sexual abuse and her death came to light, you start to question everything. I even questioned my own faith. Having a full night's sleep became a luxury I could not afford. I was too anxious to sleep, constantly wanting to wake up from a nightmare. It wasn't until I started wishing death on him that I realized I needed help. I started going to therapy to try to deal with the grief and anger of losing Maddie the way we did. I also had to navigate my son's emotions as he finds out the cruelty that exists in this world. Holidays are not the same. The void is loud. It's hard to trust people. I'm very guarded. I am hoping that when everything here is said and done, there can be some type of closure, even though Maddie's life can never be replaced. That is the only reason I am here today. As decisions are made, please keep in mind that she wasn't even my child, and I feel this way. I cannot imagine the pain, trauma, and deception that Maddie's family has experienced. I do not wish this pain and suffering on any other child or family. Thank you, Your Honor.
Stephanie online would like to address the board.
I'm scanning this gallery, trying to see if Madeline's mother, Jen Soto, is there. Our own Cody Thomas is there inside of that courtroom, so he'll be able to give us a live report on what is happening. Also, while we are waiting, let's bring in National Trial Attorney Somerville, who is here in studio with us. Madeline, you're also a jury consultant, body language expert. We heard Stephan Sterns plead no contest to murder. Want to get your thoughts on that and
I can see that her microphone is still muted.
Can you hear me, Judge?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, hi. I'm sorry. I'm trying to the court. Maddie brought a light into her. Maddie brought a light into my life that I would never be able to describe. With her outgoing personality and her infectious smile, her infectious laugh. She was so kind-hearted, adventurous, and loving. Now that she's gone, everything's changed. The silence where her laughter used to be is deafening. The hole in my heart is bottomless, and the pain is indescribable. My family's life has been shattered. What we've endured and what we will continue to endure for the rest of our lives is a kind of pain that I do not wish on anyone. No family should have to lose a loved one in this horrible manner. Especially at such a young, her life was taken. Her future, I should say, never see her fall in love, get married, or build a future that she deserves. With her, the smile in her, not only
It appears the connection is no longer established.
You return it. I can finish reading it, Judge.
I'm so sorry. I'm not in a good place with connection. I apologize.
You may continue here.
This vile and heartless crime has not only affected and traumatized my family, but so many other families as well. This has also impacted her friends, all of those who knew her, as well as the whole community. There are nights where I can't sleep, nights where I wake up gasping for air, haunted by what Maddie must have gone through. I am consumed by grief. I carry such an anger that it eats away at me on a daily basis. A depression I never thought was possible. The emptiness touches every moment of every day. And everywhere I look, I see her. I hear her laugh in my memories, and then I remember she's gone. And it destroys me all over again. To know what Maddie went through and how terrified she must have been is unbearable. The thought of her suffering haunts me. The cruelty of what was done to her will never stop echoing in my mind. I asked the court for something that I know I could never really have. Justice. Because real justice would mean that Maddie would be here with us and not you. You still get to wake up every day, something you cruelly stole from her and from us. The way you discarded Maddie as if she was nothing and her life had no value is a true reflection of your evil. The suffering you caused her should be given back to you tenfold. You do not deserve peace. You do not deserve mercy. You deserve to carry the weight of her pain every single day, just how we will carry it for the rest of our lives. And let me be perfectly clear. Where you go after this life will not be where Maddie is. She is in a place of peace surrounded by love. You, on the other hand, will never know peace. You'll never see her again. You're not going where she is going. You're going to hell. Thank you, court.
And Stephanie, can you tell the court your first and last name, please?
Stephanie Soto.
Thank you.
Stephanie Soto, did you get it? I'm sorry.
So we can hear you. Thank you for your statement.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Can you tell the court your first and last name and spelling?
Kimberly Vialta. Your Honor, I stand here today to give you a little insight of how loved and how losing Maddie has destroyed my family. Although Maddie was not my blood, I considered her my family. And I loved her like my own niece. Maddie was a kind and bubbly child and was growing up to be the most amazing young lady. She loved arts and crafts, Taylor Swift, and sour gummy candy. I had the honor and privilege of spending many holidays and special occasions with Maddie over the years, and I will cherish those memories forever. I do not have joy or happiness left in me because this monster took that away from us when he killed Maddie. Every day I feel like life is not worth living anymore because such a heinous evil exists in this world. There is not a day that goes by where I do not think about all the pain and suffering that Maddie endured. This monster took advantage of her trust and her innocence. This parasite robbed us of every moment we could have had with Maddie. And our lives will never be the same. A life sentence is not punishment enough for what he did to Maddie. However, it gives me comfort to know that he will spend the rest of his miserable life in prison. I hope he lives a long and healthy life, so he suffers every single day. Therefore, I ask the court to not take any mercy on this poor excuse of a human when imposing his sentence, because he does not deserve it. Thank you, Your Honor.
Can you let the court know your names?
My name is Tyler Wallace.
Tatiana Wallace.
And Tyler, what's your relationship to Madeline Soto?
Madeline Soto was my daughter.
Go ahead.
Madeline Soto was my daughter. She was happiness. She was a joy to be around. She was quirky and intelligent. She was curious. A little forgetful like me too. That happens sometimes, but I just loved her so much. And I was not able to be in her life as much as I would like to, due to circumstances and choices I'd made, due to the way finances worked. I was strained in my relationship with my daughter, and that was finally getting better. The last time I saw her was in October of 2023. She had come to visit for a few days, and when I took her back to the airport, I said, you know, you're turning 13 soon. When you turn 13, you have a choice of which guardian you're interested in staying with. Would you like to stay with me and Tati? And she said yes, she would. And so I was this close to having my little girl, sir. Because of the actions of this depraved man, I will never meet the woman she was becoming. And I can't grasp it. I can't grasp the selfishness of you, the deplorability of your actions. You're depraved. You're weak. You're a coward. You're a sneak thief. You crept into a family and took advantage and exploited them when they were weak. It's torn my family apart. It's led to arguments about who can go where and who can get what and who can help who, but we're all on edge because it doesn't heal with time. This isn't like other deaths that I've experienced. This just gets worse. It just gets worse every time I rethink about it and the true horror of what this man visited upon her. And I can only hope that he lives a long time in prison and has those same horrors revisited upon him by his fellow inmates. Thank you.
A heartbreaking revelation that we are just hearing from the father of Madeline Soto, saying that in his last visit with her, he let her know that when she turned 13, and remember, she was killed right after her 13th.
And how are you related to? I'm a close friend of Maddie's family. Most people only know Maddie as the victim of a heinous crime. But I'd like to talk about Maddie today. I'd like to share some things that I really love about her. I loved how fearless Maddie was. She was an amazing swimmer. She was a fast learner. The moment she set her mind to something, she did it. That's how she was about everything. She dove into everything at first, and she was so resilient. She had the most beautiful smile. It lit up her entire life. Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, I was so excited to see her, talk to her about her life. She's so curious, she's so smart. She could sing, she loved to perform for us. I enjoyed watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Bob's Burgers. She even dressed up as Louise one year for Halloween. And I loved her without so personality. She's so funny. And that's how I want everyone to leave here thinking about her and remembering her. She lost a lot of privacy towards the end of her life. And I want her to be remembered by her amazing qualities, not the abuse she endured and the exploitation she endured by her abuser. There's not 1 second of my life that I don't think about Maddie. I'll forever celebrate her in my heart and out loud. Maddie was too good for the world. She didn't deserve any of this. Since she's been gone, our family, our joy, everything's destroyed. No one smiles anymore. No one laughs. Most days I can't leave my house. I feel like I can't breathe. And I'm not even her blood relative. I was just so lucky to be a part of her life. He took Matt away from us. He took away her whole childhood. He took away all her potential that we saw in her, and he took everything from us. And now it's time for him to reap what he sows. This disgusting parasite stole Maddie's youth, her innocence, her life, her joy. He's stolen our sense of safety. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see his disgusting face. I can imagine what he did to her. I know every detail. I've read everything. I will never bring children into this world. There's people like him, depraved, disgusting maggots just like him. He's not the only one. May God forgive him, because I definitely do not. I please ask the court to prosecute him to the fullest extent. Show no mercy, exactly how he did Maddie. Justice for Maddie. Thank you.
Nothing further.
In that last statement, Stephan Sterns deserves no mercy, and I tend to agree. But there is one person we didn't hear from, and that's the biggest question of it all. Where was she, and why wasn't she there? Where was Jennifer?
So I told her I love her. That's the last thing I ever said to her. Keep on plugging away and following every lead and chasing every sighting and doing everything we can do. You know, every time we do a story, kind of redredges
the case I was just talking about. Where is Mom Jennifer Soto? Madeline's mother absent at her boyfriend Stephan Sterns' plea hearing. He pleaded and avoided the death penalty and addressed the court briefly on Monday.
I have nothing but sorrow for her loss, and I miss her all the time. Her passing has torn me and my family apart as well, and she truly was a joy. I pray to God that she is in heaven and that He's taking good care of her. And I hope she gets to join the choir because she had a beautiful voice. I will miss her all the time. I will never not honor her memory. And I apologize for all the pain.
The judge sentenced him to concurrent life sentences for the sex crimes and for homicide. We're wondering this morning, what is going to happen with Mom Jennifer Soto? Will he see her again? And will the next time we see her be in criminal court? Let's bring in our legal eagles now. With me, attorneys William Ehlenfeld and Matthew Timpanik. So great to have you both here this morning. All right, Jennifer Soto. My blood boils, as you both can see, talking about this woman. We have a lot of our courties at home that feel very strongly that Jennifer Soto has some criminal liability here. Will we see her charged? I want some predictions. And Matt Timpanik, you are in the state of Florida. That's where you practice. I'm going to begin with you. Your thoughts, please.
I think we're going to. I think the upcry from her basically skating is just too deafening, if it were. When you look at what was actually the allegations in this case, they are just disgusting. They are despicable. They're unforgivable. And for this woman to allow that man into her daughter's life and to eventually take that life and be able to plead no contest, just for the audience's edification, in the state of Florida, you can plead no contest, which says that there's enough evidence to prove the case, but I'm not saying I did it. But it's also on the judge. The judge can decline to accept a no contest plea. So I'm definitely shocked that the judge allowed the defendant to, in fact, plead no contest to a murder charge. That never happens.
Oh, Matt Timpanik, thank you so much for that. That's a really great perspective. That's very helpful because boy, did it mean that I was shouting coward at my TV when I was watching that. He couldn't even utter the words, I'm guilty. Will Ehlenfeld, let me go to you next. You've seen a lot in your career. If you had to bet here, what do you think we're going to see with Jennifer Soto?
Good morning, Julie. Yeah, Jennifer's silence speaks volumes. The fact that not only did she not make a victim impact statement yesterday, she didn't even show up. And it was notable that all of these other family members and friends showed up and made very impactful statements at yesterday's sentencing hearing and plea hearing, yet she was nowhere to be found. So I think, in many cases like this where you have a spouse or a girlfriend who might have some criminal exposure, she might have an attorney who's advising her, look, it's not in your best interest to show up at that hearing because, all you can do is hurt yourself. Certainly if you make a statement, you could potentially that could potentially be used against you later on. So, I've prosecuted many cases involving child abuse, creating risk of injury, or child abuse resulting in death. And so I think there's a lot of evidence here based upon what you just laid out. The fact that she allowed her daughter to have so much contact with him, knowing what he was doing. I think all signs are pointing towards charges against her. And it's just a matter of time before the state of Florida brings those.
Always great predictions from you, William and Matt. Thank you both for that. Let's take a look back at some of what she said. We know that we've got her speaking to police numerous times. There's body camera footage, interrogation room footage. Let's take a quick look back at some of what Jennifer Soto shared.
At any time during the course of the relationship, has he expressed that he's ever had sex with a child?
No. Not a child, but when he told me when he was in high school, he graduated high school later, like older than 18.
Okay.
He dated somebody younger than 18. I think she was 15.
Did it start there or did it start sooner? Who knows with this guy? Matt Timpanic, tell me, having been a Florida prosecutor, you're a criminal defense attorney there now, what charges specifically under Florida law do you think Ms. Jennifer Soto could potentially be hit with here?
I think the most serious offense that could be is potentially aggravated child abuse. And the reason is that this individual, this defendant, allowed a individual that she knew to be essentially a deviant, potentially a violent person into her home and be with her child. And it just seemed like from the very get-go of this case, that is like, you're not telling us everything, are you? And as a defense attorney, yeah, my advice is don't say anything. But as a human being, it's like, how could you possibly allow this man anywhere close to your child? And I think that she's lucky she could get away with something like aggravated child abuse, because I just don't see the state of Florida, I believe it's Osceola County, if I have the courtroom correctly, letting this go, because her conduct was just too egregious. And it's not a situation where we're like, well, we're going to allow you, your conduct was, we're not going to condone it, but we're not going to charge you at the same time. I just don't see that happening.
Matt, thank you so much for that. Madeline Soto's biological father was there at the plea hearing, did deliver a victim impact statement. Let's take a listen back together to that now.
You're depraved. You're weak. You're a coward. You're a sneak thief. You crept into a family and took advantage and exploited them when they were weak. We're all on edge because it doesn't heal with time. This isn't like other deaths that I've experienced. This just gets worse. It just gets worse every time I rethink about it and the true horror of what this man visited upon her. And I can only hope that he lives a long time in prison and has those same horrors revisited upon him by his fellow inmates.
Oh my gosh, I agree with everything Dad said there. William E. Linfeld, I want to turn to you here. You've had such a long career being such a great champion for victims, a prosecutor at the state level, then a United States attorney twice, 2 terms you served there. You've done so much for so many people. When you hear Dad there in the courtroom, tell us about some of the things you're thinking about the dynamic that was perhaps at play there in this home where his daughter was living with her mom and mom's despicable boyfriend.
That's what you expect a parent to say, is exactly what we heard from the father there. And then you've got the mother who doesn't even bother to show up and make a statement. And so, I can't imagine being that father, knowing that occurred. And he probably has so many feelings going through his body, and we heard some of that right there in the courtroom. But parents are supposed to protect their children, and that's what the mother of this child failed to do. Jen Soto failed to protect this child. So it's just so heartbreaking to hear him make those statements, to feel his pain. And I know he probably wishes he could have and could have done more to protect his daughter, but he was unable to. So I just can't imagine what he's feeling right now. And I do hope that, that certainly Mr. Stern is going to have a target on his back for decades in prison. And in many ways, that's worse than the death penalty. The fact that he committed these crimes that aren't going to be viewed very well inside the walls of a Florida prison for the rest of his life. And so I think that, justice is being served with this defendant, and hopefully there will be justice when it comes to Jen Soto down the road.
Oh, drop the mic right there. William E. Linfeld, excellent points. Thank you so much for that. We'll leave the segment here for now. I'm so glad we have both of you gentlemen coming with us for more opening statements. Friends at home, go refill your coffee. Here's what's coming up next.
They say silence speaks volumes. This is proof positive. I'm gonna wrap this case up with this statement. Justice isn't what the court declares. It's what we remember, what we demand, and what we refuse to ignore. Tonight we heard the cries of a family broken by betrayal, a father who showed up, a grandmother who fought through tears, A community that refuses to let Madeline Soto become just another headline. But we also felt the echo of a voice that wasn't there. The silence of her mother who, by absence or by choice, left questions unanswered and wounds exposed. And as Maddie's memory demands truth, we must say it plainly. A monster was chosen over a child. And we must never let that choice go unchallenged. So we close this case not with finality, but with resolve. To keep speaking when others stay silent. To honor innocence with action. And to carry the name of Madeline Soto, vibrant, artistic, joyful, into every space where justice must rise. Her light wasn't lost, it was stolen. Tonight, we shine it back. Now, we're gonna go ahead and put a wrap on the Vallow Daybell Doomsday case. But then again, a lot of it you already know. A lot of it you already know. Chad Guy Daybell is already sitting on death row for his part in the murders. He was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of conspiracy to commit murder, 2 counts of grand theft, and 1 count of insurance fraud. But this one, ladies and gentlemen, this is one where you really got to get it on this. Noreen Ryan Vallow Daybell. 2 counts of first-degree murder, 5 counts of conspiracy to commit murder, and 2 counts of grand theft. And how was she sentenced? Hard. 5 consecutive life sentences, including 3 with no possibility of parole, and 2 consecutive with a possibility of parole before 25 years. Even if she may get parole before 25 years, but still, she's still doing the other 3 with no possibility of parole. So no matter, even if she thinks she's getting out, she's not getting out. She's not getting out, and she's not getting away with it. But let's call this what we want. Let's call this what it is. This is the final statement from Lori Daybell before her sentencing, because everybody who's followed this case knows Lori Daybell likes to hear herself talk. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to you know what? Instead of the victim impact statement, we're gonna take you straight to the judge as he delivers justice in Lori Daybell's sentencing. And trust me, like the victim impact statements in Kohberger's case and the victim impact statements in Stephan Sterns' case, this judge holds nothing back.
In this day and age where truth seems to matter little to our talking heads on the news and to our politicians, I'm proud that this trial court, and through our jury trials, we draw on the collective wisdom of jurors to determine the truth. As I said in my jury instructions to the jury, it is their job to determine the truth. The defendant spent several minutes talking about statistics and being prevented from presenting her side, and that is not the truth. Maricopa County is a court of innovation. We virtually screened hundreds of jurors, and we kicked off jurors from service that had ever even heard of Lori Vallow. So when she says that she couldn't get a fair trial in Maricopa County, that is not the truth. Your cases involved 24 separate jurors who deliberated and reached verdicts on these two cases. They represent a broad cross-section of society, which means these two verdicts represent the decisions of our community, not the view of a single person, not the view of a single prosecutor, and not the view of a judge. The collective decision-making of juries helps to reduce individual biases and errors in judgment. 12 jurors in the first case unanimously agreed that proof beyond a reasonable doubt established you conspired to kill Charles Vallow. And 12 separate jurors in the second case, again with no prior knowledge of you whatsoever, no knowledge of your notoriety, unanimously agreed you conspired to have Brandon Boudreaux killed. Many people have asked why the state bothered to extradite you and bring you to Arizona, given the sentences that you received in Idaho. Trials are not just about seeking accountability or punishment from those who have committed crimes, but to give the victims of crimes justice and acknowledgement of the impact of being a victim. Justice demands not only recognition of the pain inflicted, but a firm response that upholds the dignity of every victim harmed by the actions of someone who has shown blatant disregard for humanity. You've left a wake of destruction stretching from Louisiana, across Texas, Arizona, up to Idaho and back again. Anytime a person victimizes a single individual, the ripple effects of their actions extend far beyond the immediate harm. And you have not victimized just a single victim, but many. You've shattered lives, you've undermined trust, you've sowed fear in the hearts of many. I can't imagine what Brandon and his family went through for those months, hiding, Charles's family wondering who's next. Is someone coming for them? Jenny said a lot of the things I was already going to say to you, Brandon. I'll just touch on a couple of them. I had wondered during the trial whether you suffer from survivor's guilt, and she confirmed that for me today. I also remember looking at you in the back of the courtroom trial, and just you have this look about you of a wounded individual. I hope you can heal someday. To Charles's family, I just wanted to share with you that I'm sorry for your loss. Charles seemed like a great all-around guy. One of the exhibits that was put up during the first trial, I noticed something. He and I share the same birthday. So I'll remember him on my birthday. I've seen many, many cases in my career where someone faces a long prison sentence for what amounted to one split-second bad decision. You are not that person. The amount of contemplation, calculation, planning, manipulation that went into these crimes is unparalleled in my career. Your powers of manipulation are profoundly destructive, one that undermines trust, distorts truth, and can erode the very foundations of healthy relationships and society. The impact of your manipulation has been devastating, insidious, and far-reaching, and perhaps still unknown. One can't help but wonder if Alex died as a result of the extraordinary burdens that you placed upon him. No one will ever know. You preyed on the vulnerability of those around you, JJ, Tylee, Alex, Melanie, others. And today I heard about Colby. You specialized in exploiting the empathy and goodwill of others, turning those virtues into tools of control and harm. I think that over time, as a result of being subjected to your manipulation, those people lost their sense of self and their ability to distinguish truth from falsehood. In the face of such profound damage, a long prison sentence is not merely a punishment. It is a necessary affirmation that our society values justice, protection, and the sanctity of human life. You just referenced a Bible verse or a verse recently about the prisoners shall go free. That is not a literal verse. That is a verse about people that accept Jesus can be in prison and they will go free when they die and go to heaven. But it will take an act of God for you to go free. In short, you should never be released from prison. Eventually, the camera that you seek out so much, the media requests, will lessen over time and you'll fade into obscurity. The state has requested that I find additional aggravation. The court does find that in CR 2021-001704, the offense was committed in the expectation that you would receive pecuniary gain. In the CR 2022-001242 case, the court finds the emotional harm suffered by Brandon and his family to be immeasurable. The sentences on those aggravating factors alone will be justified. The state also asked to find an aggravating factor of a prior felony conviction within 10 years of this offense. However, I'm hesitant to do that just because of the way that statute reads, that the offense had to be committed before the date of the offense on these two crimes, which it wasn't. So the court will decline to find that aggravating factor. However, as I said, the substantial amount of harm to the victims and the victim's family, emotional, financial, and otherwise, are immeasurable and justifies consecutive sentences. Ms. Vallow, what's your position on Ms. Woodcock's restitution request of $8,949.52?
I just received it from my advisory council, and I'd like to get a chance to look at it. So I know that the restitution from Brandon hasn't been turned in yet, so we'll look at that and I can discuss it with my advisory council.
Would you want to waive your appearance for a restitution hearing in the future and have your counsel handle that?
I don't see why I couldn't appear by Zoom.
I think my request would be just to leave, not waive her appearance at this time, but if there ends up being some restitution hearing, I can reach out to her and decide if she wants to be here for that.
I'm not going to have her extradited from Idaho for a restitution hearing if she wants to appear, so that's my issue here. She may be able to appear virtually, I don't know.
Because at this time, we don't have the restitution from Mr. Boudreaux, so.
All right. I'm going to set a status conference regarding restitution as to Kay Woodcock. We'll set that in a few moments. If you agree to it prior to that date, we'll vacate it. If not, we'll have to talk about setting a restitution hearing. The court will also, at the request of Brandon Boudreaux, issue a lifetime injunction that prevents you from having any form of contact whatsoever with him for the rest of your life. The court will also issue an injunction on behalf of Susan Vallow, Kay Woodcock, and Jerry Vallow that likewise prohibits you from having any form of contact with them for the rest of your life. You'll be served with those injunctions later today. In each case, it's ordered that you pay a $9 victim compensation fund assessment, a $20 probation assessment, a $2 victims' rights enforcement assessment, and a $13 criminal penalty assessment. Although it's largely symbolic, the court's going to impose the maximum fine allowable for each case. It's ordered that you pay a $150,000 fine plus a 78% surcharge on each case. Those total fines on each case is $267,000. I know the law says that you can't financially benefit off your crimes, but in the event that somehow you did, those restitution amounts or those fine amounts are out there that could be paid. As to count 1 in CR 2021-001704, the court orders you to be sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 25 calendar years. This sentence would run consecutively to the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho in Fremont County, case number CR 22-21-1624. As to count 1 in CR 2022-001-242-001, it's ordered that you be sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 25 calendar years. That sentence also, due to the number of victims you've created in the two cases, the immeasurable harm you've inflicted on many, it's ordered that that run consecutive to CR 2021-001-704. Because these sentences are consecutive to one another and consecutive to the Idaho case in which you are currently serving a sentence, you're giving 0 days credit for time served. You have the right to appeal from the orders of the court and to have a lawyer represent you. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you. If instead you want to represent yourself in your appeal, you must file a written waiver no later than 30 days after the filing of your notice of appeal. If you cannot afford copies of the necessary records and transcripts, they would be provided for you at no cost. If you want to appeal, you must file a notice of appeal within 20 days of today, or you lose that right. If you want to petition for post-conviction of relief, you must file a notice within 90 days from today, or within 30 days after the appellate court issues a mandate affirming the judgment and sentence in your direct appeal, whichever is later, or you would lose that right as well. It's ordered remanding you to the custody Department of Corrections effective today to carry out those sentences. We're recess.
There it is. Lori Vallow sentenced to 2 more life sentences. Only thing is, she can get parole after 25 calendar years. I don't see how, because she's still doing 3 consecutive life sentences in Idaho. And so basically, she gets out in Arizona if that parole goes through. If not, she's not getting out. But I want to hit you off with a little bit of audacity real quick. Before I wrap this case up and wrap up this edition of Bethea'S Byte, I want to show you just a little bit of audacity from Lori Daybell.
Representing myself at these 2 trials was a constitutional right that I exercised. I could not have done so without my team. Annalena Ramirez, my paralegal, Jeff White, my investigator, and Pamela Hicks and Robert Abernathy, my advisory counsel. I acknowledge their diligence and hard work in helping me exercise that right. They worked tirelessly, and I appreciate them. Representing myself, I have learned much about the law through this process, and I'm grateful for the knowledge that I have gained. Knowledge is eternal, and it is only love and the knowledge that we acquire in this life that we take with us into the next. I have studied the rules of law, case law, and the like. I was amazed and enlightened as my understandings were completely changed from before I started this process. Before this long court journey, I only had basic understanding of the judicial process. I was of the understanding that both parties would be able to get up at a trial and each tell their side of the story, but I soon learned that the rules of law do not allow that.
Actually, they do.
The process is much more complex than that. It is not designed for that, although the Constitution of the United States was designed for that. The rules of law negate most of that. As a defendant, I was precluded from calling several witnesses. Other witnesses for the defense were precluded from testifying things that they did witness. As a defendant, I was precluded from asking law enforcement specific questions. I was also precluded from admitting documents that the state turned over to the defense as discovery. The founding fathers of this country did not intend for the rules and laws of trial that have been implemented into this justice system to make it impossible for the accused to defend themselves. Their objective was quite the opposite. They advocated for a fair and impartial and speedy trial. It was never their intention for people to be sitting in jail for years and years waiting to be tried while the state continues to try to gather new evidence against them. This is what our unjustice system has become. Men and women sitting in jail for years and waiting to be heard. The constitutional right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness thwarted. My case is not unique. There are men in Maricopa County that have been in jail almost 10 years waiting to be tried. The conditions of this jail are not for long-term confinement. You do not have access to direct medical care. You do not have access to proper nutrition. You do not have access to sunlight. You do not have access to decent dental care. In fact, when you have been in Maricopa County Jail for 1 year, they come to your door and offer you a vitamin D supplement because you have not been in the sun in a year. Imagine this for years. It is inhumane. The state of Arizona, according to the laws, since I am a prisoner from another state, only had 90 days in which to give me 2 speedy trials. That's 3 months. I arrived here at MCSO on November 30th, 2023. That is over a year and a half, 20 months specifically. That is over 6 times the amount of time it should have taken for me to have these 2 trials. But Arizona leaves this law up to the judge's discretion, and the judge has the power to extend your trial at his will. Even though the 6th and 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States proclaims otherwise. 98% of all cases in Maricopa County end in plea deals where the accused plead guilty. And I'll tell you why. It's so miserable in that jail that they plead guilty so they can go to the prison and have decent food, decent sunlight, and a chance to live. 2% of all cases in Maricopa County that actually do go to trial, of all the cases that actually do go to trial, only 0.2 end in acquittal. That is 1 out of 1,200 people who go to trial go home.
That's actually not the correct stat.
Is that a system designed to convict you? The rules of law governing trial assure that. As you witnessed in my 2 cases, the judge supports the state to achieve this outcome. So here we are, the state of Arizona has accomplished its intention. 1, to extradite me from Idaho. 2, to convict me. And 3, to add to my ledger of lifetimes. The state used countless taxpayers' money to transport me, house me, millions of dollars to wrongly convict me on 2 charges that they made sure judicially that I could not defend myself against. I know political aspirations, raises, and job promotions were at stake. So congratulations. I was convicted in the media long before I went to trial. We all know there was no way for me to come to Arizona and get a fair, impartial, or speedy trial. And now that fact has been proven. The state of Arizona brought me here when I was already serving 5 life sentences. Now I will serve 7 life sentences. Will that be enough? Will that be enough? I want everyone to know that I mourn with all of you. I am sorry for your pain. Losing those close to you is painful, and I acknowledge all of the pain, and I do empathize. I feel it too. If I was accountable for these crimes, I would acknowledge it, and I would let you know how sorry I was. But I have witnessed for myself what it is like to leave this mortal existence and return home when I temporarily died in the hospital giving birth to my daughter, Kaylee. When our spirit leaves our body and we return to the pure energy state in the spirit world, we immediately no longer feel hate, anger, envy, or resentment. I promise you. We come to earth to experience these emotions, but these emotions are immediately replaced by a blissful, heightened sense of peace, love, joy, and well-being. The moment our spirit leaves our body, we feel more alive than we ever did on earth. And we have deep empathy for those we have left behind. We do not want our loved ones to grieve or be sad. We know that they will because that's a mortal experience, but they come to comfort us. We immediately know the minute you leave your body, you are aware of who you are, why you came to earth, and that we will all be together again soon, and that this separation is only temporary. All of the cares and pressures and problems immediately melt away. And after comforting our loved ones, we move on with our eternal life, continuing to pursue knowledge and wisdom and understanding in eternal progression. Heaven is a very busy and happy place where everyone is engaged in projects that they love to do. That includes Joshua, that includes Tylee, that includes Tammy, that includes Charles. No one there, none of these people are seeking revenge or justice. So although we miss our loved ones, and I do too, I assure you that they are busy and happy and peaceful. I have felt the kind of contentment that they feel now.
All ages, if anything, Lori Vallow Daybell just loves to hear herself talk. Oh, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get the final word on her. And as I begin this statement, I want you to remember this old adage. It is better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. That's from Maurice Switzer from Mrs. Goose in her book in 1907. Lori Vallow Daybell had a choice. In the moments before her sentencing in Arizona, when silence might have offered the dignity she never gave to her victims, she chose instead to speak. And in doing so, she removed all doubt, not just of guilt, but of a conscience unmoored from humanity. Her words were not an apology. They weren't even a defense. They were a mirror held up to a mind still deflecting, spiritualizing, and rewriting a tragedy so deep it staggered even those seasoned in law and loss. She claimed she had been convicted in the media, as if headlines bore more weight than burial plots. She invoked scripture about prisoners walking free, echoing verses of redemption while ignoring the truth that her victims had no such liberty. And perhaps the most chilling of all, she insisted that the children, Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow, were happy, busy, and living their lives in heaven, as though their murders were mere relocations to a better zip code. This wasn't delusion alone. It was defiance. A speech meant to reclaim the narrative, not confess truth. A final act of spiritual theater that mistook the courtroom gravity for a pulpit. But judges don't preside over fantasy. Families don't mourn in metaphor. And justice doesn't yield to doctrine dressed in denial. The Arizona sentencing may not have changed the timeline of Lori Daybell's incarceration, but it changed something else. It gave voice to the victims through the steadiness of the court and the disbelief of a nation listening in horror. It let every parent, every faith leader, every member of the true crime community hear what unchecked spiritual narcissism sounds like, and why it must never speak unchecked again. Because sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's mercy. And sometimes speech isn't bravery, it's betrayal. And now, having said all of that, it's time to wrap this thing up with my closing argument. Justice rendered its verdicts, and now the doors have closed, iron and unyielding. Stephan Sterns will never walk free again. Bryan Kohberger will carry his silence behind concrete and steel. And Lori Daybell, she will face the long shadow of her choices with no exit, no excuse. These prisons aren't just buildings. They're monuments to consequence. But this closing argument isn't about them. This is from Madeline Soto, whose light was stolen before it fully bloomed. This is for the Idaho 4, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, whose youth and promise were ripped away in the night. This is for Tylee Ryan, J.J. Vallow, Charles Vallow, and Tammy Daybell, whose lives were entangled and extinguished by delusion and deceit. We speak their names not as victims, but as testaments. Their stories don't end with sentencing. They begin again with remembrance, vigilance, and truth. And as for Sterns, Kohberger, and Daybell, their legacies are sealed, defined not by notoriety, but by the justice they could not outrun. The final verdict has been spoken. The silence they imposed has been shattered, and we will not forget. As always, this is advocacy, compassion, and justice reloaded. I'm Ernest Bethea, the Last Outlaw. Thank you for joining me. This is Bethea'S Byte, and it's reloaded. Until I see you again, you know what to do. Bite.
Thank you all for joining me here at the Drama-Free True Crime Destination. Be sure to follow Bethea'S Byte Reloaded all over social media and get your coverage of true crime news with no gimmicks, no drama, and no BS. This is Bethea'S Byte, and it's reloaded.